Hey Void, how you doing? Finally took a step away from Shudder, sort of, to get back to my own collections and grab the next Puppet Master, Puppet Master 2. Now I say sort of because I actually didn't have immediate access to my DVD at the moment, but, I was planning on watching Puppet Master 2, but it was available on Shudder, so I just used Shudder anyway. So 50-50. I guess it'll speed up my Shudder trek eventually. But this one I was more watching because my own stock. Alright, Puppet Master 2. Still from Full Moon and, well, all the campiness that brings. Puppet Master 2 is a direct-to-video circa 1990, and I didn't care for it as much as the original Puppet Master. I mean, it's okay, but it's got more problems for me. So, this one, it's set back at the same hotel. Took me a while to figure that out, but it is. Then, trying to figure out where I want to MacGuffin this. I still haven't actually decided. Anyway, a group of paranormal researchers are going to this hotel because, well, I guess largely because of the events of the last one. Because, well, Alex, our main surviving psychic from the last one, is now in an asylum. Because reasons. He seemed fine before, but I guess he's raving now. And the lady who owned the place died between the movies, killed by the puppets, having her brain stolen. Okay, so you're giving me a bad taste right off the mouth. I complained about that in Aliens, and into Alien 3. If you just invalidate the characters surviving the movie off screen or barely touch on the front right off, it's frustrating. I also didn't like that in Friday the 13th Part 2. It's an issue I have of just bumping off the survivors just to keep going. And in this case, it doesn't even make sense. Alex, he seemed fine, unless he tried telling someone about the puppets, which, why would he? So, I guess he's just went crazy. And I'm having problems remembering her name, the lady who owned the hotel. She's seen the puppets, she knows they're there. Why are you staying there? Or why are you being surprised when they're harvesting your brain? I get out or try to get rid of the puppets. Just. Okay. Back to the plot. I'll keep bringing up my problems along the way. So. One thing I will say I do like, you see the puppets a lot more in this one. And that's a good thing. So. The puppets are trying to harvest brain matter so they can get their, essentially they need a potion to keep themselves active. And they recently resurrected their master, Andre Toulon, having dug up his grave and essentially given him a bit of, I guess, a bit of the potion. So now he's going, and then because they're running out, now he's going to help teach them how to make more, as well as get himself into a new body. As his is a corpse, he's walking around dressed up like the Invisible Man. So he shows up claiming to own the hotel, which no one believes, but they kind of tolerate his presence. We do get an interesting flashback of how Toulon came across the secret of the puppet making. But for the most part, his portrayal in this just doesn't seem to mesh with his portrayal in later films. Okay, so let's see. I think one of the problems this film had is the director, from what I've read, it's his first and only time directing. He usually does more, I think, stop motion. So he apparently at the time of this movie, he concluded and was put out there like 60-some scenes that were just not completed. And he was very slow going, and that was already 5 days over shooting. So the problems become apparent. So psychics are trying to investigate what they're not psychics. The paranormal investigators are trying to investigate what's going on, and then when one of them gets killed off by a puppet, they see, capture, and kill Tunneler, a puppet with a drill on his head. They start trying to figure out what's going on with that, especially since the one psychic lady they did bring is now missing. So we're trying to figure out what's going on, how this mysterious bandaged man who just appeared is tied in, and survive the puppets. Most of them don't survive the puppets. Okay. So, things that are good. The new puppet Torch. I do like his design. I do like that they don't just try to, they actually show Toulon making him. So, his reason for not appearing before, it's okay. It's no problem. He's got a cool design and he's got a flamethrower. That's fun. I will say the acting is decent, particularly the guy who is playing Toulon is doing a good job. Just, I have a problem with the writing for his character. And the soundtrack is familiar from the first one, so I'm okay with that. The gore effects are... This one does go a little bit, I won't say it's gorier than the first, because there seems to have been more of a body count in that one. But you get some more interesting shots of the puppets doing their thing. Okay. Nitpicks. One, Jester still doesn't really do much. He's a cool design puppet, but he shows up waving a knife at one point, but again, he's rarely the one in the field. Two, they start killing off the puppets way too quick. Especially with, well, you try to keep the puppets iconic, and if you want to have them showing up again, the way they're killing them off makes it a little tricky. I mean, Tunneler, they pretty much have knocked down and have opened up, but really, I guess they could still fix Tunneler. But Leech Woman gets thrown into a fireplace. Apparently, some of the executives didn't like Leech Woman's character, Leech Woman, and wanted to try to find a way to get her out. I don't know why, but because she's always a puppet I was more interested in. Especially when you get to some of the backstories of the puppets in Part 3. But she's killed off here, yet she shows up again in later movies. A little explanation. Other than the studio actually did like her. Also, for some reason, she's like one of the puppets that never appears on like the advertisements for it. Don't know why. Anyway, other things I dislike. Toulon's portrayal. So, Toulon, especially with how you see him in number 3 as a guy who's setting his puppets to kill Nazis, he, in the first movie, sacrificed himself to keep the secret of puppetry out of the Nazis' hands. In this movie, has no problem killing people to come back from the dead, as well as betraying his puppets at the end. So, his portrayal here just doesn't seem to fit any other portrayal of him. He just seems to be a callous man only worried about himself and the woman he believes is his reincarnated wife, because that's a subplot. So, also with how the first time, a couple times I saw this, I didn't understand why the puppets turned on him at the end, because all of a sudden they just do. I believe it's because with all the time that they've spent gathering the mixture, then he ends up someone gets spilled and he ends up just about to use it all for himself and reincarnate the person he thinks who's reincarnated as his wife into a puppet body to live forever. So I guess they finally betray him because of that, especially since now they know how to make this serum on their own. Okay. So, the confusing ending is another nitpick I had on this one. Also, this is the first time they mentioned that the puppets need to recharge every half century, as they put it. So that never factors in again, and I don't really seem to be worried about it in the ones that are set canonically after this one. For Puppet Master 4 and 5. Puppet Master timelines all over the place. So, this one is a 4 MacGuffin. There's things that I like. The puppets doing their puppet thing is still cool, but the rest of the film around it is kind of a mess. And it does detract. This is one of... It's not my least favorite Puppet Master, because there are definitely worse ones later on. But it's not a good one. But that's all I really got on this one. 4 MacGuffins for Puppet Master 2. There we go.